Hello, my name is Marcus and welcome to Tabletop Reviews, but today I'm having a look at Wyrmspan, the second edition, no, not the second edition, the revamping of Wingspan. The first time they tried to do that, expanding the Span universe. So yeah, let's see how it is set up.
First you take this very nice board here, it's placed in the middle. Then these small square cards are shuffled up and placed on the bottom row. These are the cave cards that are used later on. Over top of those are not regular sized blue-backed cards taken, shuffled up and laid out. These are dragon cards. Then you have this board that is a round tracker. First you have these objectives, they are dual-sided. These will shuffled up and picked out 4 random ones, the objectives for each individual round. Then there's this little pink circle here that is placed on number 1. This is moved along as the rounds go. The final board that will be placed is the Dragon Guild board. We'll also take these special Dragon Guild things and place them in the middle, correcting for player count. And then you have all the extra bits, the eggs, the coins and the resources that will just be put aside somewhere. Now for the player. They started with this individual player board, which has 3 lines for cards and a couple spaces to the left. Started by getting 3 cave cards and 3 dragon cards. From these 6 total cards, you get to keep 4. Then you have this little worker guy. He will be placed at the base camp space on your board. Your individual player cubes will be placed next to your board, and an egg will be placed on one of the 2 egg spaces on your board. And then you'll grab the box of resources here, and you get to choose 3 starting resources. It's of course a clever idea to choose these based on the cards that you chose, or chose them alongside each other. Final step is the shield token to be placed on the starting spot of the Dragon Guild. Well, there are also these multiplier tokens, just put them wherever.
I think in terms of the look, this is probably one of the worst examples of a setup I've ever done. Also, I forgot that actually taking it as a part of the starting setup, you get 36 silver coins, silver coins as well. But it's like it's part of the starting setup and it's part of the round setup. So it's whatever. But that's the setup. So yeah, instead of having just one central board, it's 3 different boards across here. Why this sort of couldn't have been like at least just 2 boards? Like why couldn't have these been together, or these or these 2 at least? I don't know. Like this seems to be taking up this part right here, the round scoring, seems to take up way more space than it needs to. Like compared to the one from Wingspan, which is basically just this part is like half the size at least. I don't understand why that needs to take up so much space for some reason. Seems a little bit overdone, and sort of the same with this one over here. There's a lot of room over here. Could have compromised this down a little bit. These spaces here are also quite big, so compromise this down a little bit, compromise this down a little bit. Make it take up just a little bit less space. But yeah, at least these 2 should have been just one board. Your own player board is sort of the same as it is in Wingspan. I am going to be making that comparison, by the way. I didn't mention it before, but I'm going to be making the comparison to Wingspan all throughout this review, 100%. I can't not do that. But the main board is sort of the same. You have these 3 lines. You have just the guy here on base camp, and you have these cubes. Resources are also in the same vein, and you have the coins here. Very much similar looking. The only difference is you have stored eggs. You can store some eggs. You can't do that in Wingspan. I need a little touch to it, but that's more of a gameplay thing. What I will say is there comes these 3 greenish containers, and of course a card holder. The card holder barely holds these cards and some extra cards that are over there that I'm not going to show you because they are not relevant for this review. And this one as well seems like, why have you given me just 3 in this size? Like sure, 1 in this size for the eggs works perfectly fine, but the Wingspan came with these smaller containers that can contain the resources. Give me 5 of those and then just bags for my player components. Right now the player components are stored along the coins. And it just seems like, and this is going to be something that is I'm going to say quite a bit for this review. It just seems like they've gone for a worse option compared to Wingspan. in terms of this. Like, why do I have these two? These could have been 4 of the same components as they were in Wingspan, and it would have been perfect alongside some extra backies for the player components. You have these multiplier things here. Don't know why they're here. I can't conceive a situation where you would need these. I can't. But hey, maybe I just haven't played the game correctly. Whatever. But yeah, whatever. And again, in terms of multipliers, this seems to be the worst option you could take. Into just having a disc times 2. So what do I put it on top of a resource so that every time I'm talking components right now, by the way, not setup. The setup is whatever. So I need to remove it every time, or I need to do this every time. I'm talking components right now, by the way. That's ridiculous of me. The setup, as I say, this should just be one, making it a bit easier for setup. This one could be smaller, also served in a way, just making it easier for the setup, having it more contained, so you don't have all these kind of different boards out here. But other than that, you have 2 piles of cards, fair enough, that works for the gameplay, and then just the resource indication tokens that need to be thrown somewhere on the table. But this could help with setup if these were something proper. Yeah, if they were something proper, they could help with setup. These can be used for many other things than this, but here they are completely useless in terms of easing the setup, because these should need to be split. These needs to be split. These are fine. So yeah, some things in here that just makes setup a little bit more annoying than it needs to be. Anyways, I talked a lot about the components, and we'll get back to that later on. But first, we need to see how this game is played.
Your turn will consist of taking your worker and choosing one of the available actions. Explore, entice, or excavate. Excavating, we're going to build some caves. First choose whatever row you want to put in a cave card in. It has to be empty, the first one is not empty. And then you pay the cost. 1 silver coin, and depending on which row, maybe also an extra egg. When you play down a cave, it gives you some kind of a reward noted at the bottom of the card. One such reward could be drawing a card. You'll take either from the face-up rows or from the top of the deck. You could also be moving on the Dragon Guild. Simply move your shield token to the right for the next spot and take any given reward. In this example, that reward is an egg placed on any empty egg space, either on your main board or a dragon card. To entice means to attract the dragon and playing dragon card. First off, it costs a coin to take the action. On the left side of the dragon cards, you can see which columns they can be in. The colored ones are the ones they can be played into. Right above that is the resources that this particular dragon costs to play. And also, to play a dragon, there needs to be an excavated cave. The first ones in all columns are already excavated, but other than that, you can choose the ones you have excavated earlier, pay the cost and resources, and the dragon is played. Here's important to note that every dragon has a special ability. The hourglass one here is one that happens once every single round. This symbol here is one that is immediately when played. This is every time you explore across this card, and this is endgame scoring. And finally, we have explore, which you can do at every cave. Exploring becomes more expensive the more you do it, so when you pay for it, place a coin at the first slot here to note that you've done it once. To explore, you place your explorer at the leftmost space, that is this black and white symbol. Gain whatever you gain at the first space. Then check if you have a dragon, you can move on to the next space. If dragon also has that symbol, it will grant you an additional reward. But move on, gain next reward. If you encounter a red stop sign, you can explore no longer. An important thing to note is you can always swap 2 resources to a different resource. When all players have passed, a round is over. Then the first thing you do is check all the dragons with this little stop clock symbol and activate whatever ability that they have. Then you check these round end scoring objectives and place down one of your cubes whenever position you are. The top one is the number 1, second is number 2, then number 3, and then all others. And then you have a few things that happen at the end of every round. First of all, you remove the 3 face-up dragon cards and 3 face-up cave cards and replace them with new face-up cards. Then every player receives 6 silver coins and also 1 egg that can be placed either on your main board, or if a dragon is available with a egg symbol. If you have no available egg spaces, the egg is lost. One last thing to note about the Dragon Guild. When you reach the bottom or the topmost space, you can place a cube in any of these bonus spaces. They're all different from game to game, except for the bottom one, which grant 6, 3 and 1 point.
And I don't think there's gonna come a better explanation of how the game works from me, at least. So yeah, a lot of similarities to Wingspan, of course, in terms of the gameplay. You have this worker guy who moves around to the 3 spaces to do what you want: excavate, entice, or explore. The excavate action is the one that costs X, and when we come to theme, I will talk about that. And of course, you have the dragons cost. Every action costs a coin, no matter what. You will always have to use a coin. So the coins sort of step in instead of the cubes from Wingspan, of course, to be how many actions you have. As a standard, you have 6 actions every single round, with some opportunity to get more. Like one of the dragons I showed was gain 2 silver coins when you play it. And there's some caves as well that give a coin when you play them. And then they work much like in Wingspan. They expand out the action from the Explore, so you can go in this one you go further to the right. In Wingspan you just start further from the right and go left. But in this one you start from the left and go over, and the more dragons you have down, the further you can go into these caves that you are creating, getting stronger, getting a better action, sort of the engine building aspect of it. And then of course you have the entire, which is just playing down dragons. Playing down dragons basically costs 2 turns here, because you need to excavate and then entice, except of course for the first part when you can just play down dragon in that cave that already is excavated. But the further in you want to go, you need to excavate before you can entice, and then you can explore. So basically it costs you 2 turns to play down a dragon in the later game, which is kind of expensive in terms of the resources that the different dragons need. They sort of have some thematic sense to them, and they don't seem to be too expensive. There's a good variety of costs, but that doesn't really matter, because now we get into the nook of the gameplay. Why do I need the X for everything except playing the dragons, right? In the Wingspan, one of the great things about the X is you use them for playing your birds. The further in you go, the more X it costs, and it sort of makes sense, because you know, when an egg disappears, another bird sort of shows up, and it has this thematic tie-in of both when birds start nesting, it attracts more birds to start nesting, but also when an egg disappears, a bird tends to show up, at least in nature. But in this one, it's when I am digging into the mountain, I need to use an egg. Okay, fair enough, it's protein. Is that what they're hinting at? You need something to eat, almost. Or when, of course, I'm exploring, you also need the eggs in, but not on the first turn, just on the second and third. So is it the same? Is it because these people need some protein, something to work with as they are doing this hard job for you? Doesn't really make a lot of sense, but maybe that is what they're going for. Fair enough, it is. It just loses that thematic touch. Then you have the Dragon Guild. What has that got to do with anything? It isn't really explained, it's not really mapped out. It's just an extra space for you to get some bonuses or score some extra points and do some extra stuff. But I would rather have those spaces on the board give an egg or give extra resources or build on the engine. This is not an engine you can build up. This is just getting them, and you can try and time it to the correct so that it sort of hits how you want it to, but it's not going to be easy to do, and it's honestly wouldn't be worth the hassle to do either. It's an attachment that doesn't really add to the game at all. I think, you know, it's fine having to spend 2 actions to play a card. Get down to the cave, get down the card, dragons. But then you have a dragon like that gives 2 coins, and all of a sudden it doesn't seem balanced. If I get that one, I can get 2 extra turns. 2 extra turns is very valuable. That's playing a dragon. That can be a lot of a lot of points. It only gives 2 points, this certain dragon, sure, but it might enable me to put down something that scores 6 points. And whilst I've just played down something that scores 4 points. I've just doubled your points tally because I was able to do that. So having the coins be the source of you committing actions is just bad. Again, if you want to compare it to Wingspan, it makes so much sense to have these cubes. You get 1 less every turn, but your engine is being built up and being amazing. So, you know, it should matter that you get 1 less turn every round. it really because you have that engine, and usually it doesn't matter. You usually get to do so much because of that engine that you're building. This one you aren't building up that engine, and some dragons cost a silver coin. Let me see if I can find one in here. There was one right there. Of course it disappears. I see it and it disappears immediately. Right there. This goddamn dragon costs a coin to play down. That's 2 turns to play down 1 card. And what? Gain 3 points for each hatchling on your player mat, a maximum of 9 points. So this one might score you 15 points if you do that. But at the bench you're playing down hatchlings, and hatchlings costs X to put down. And X is not something that you are getting a lot of in this game. Sure, you're getting one every round, but you also need them when you're excavating out. Excavating out. Do you think you can make do with just that one dragon, 6 dragons, then you could avoid putting down X? You can't. Then you're going to lose. It's just every step of the way is so stupid. That coin aspect, where you can get extra turn or even lose turns from playing dragons, that really aren't worth it. It's so stupid. And instead, they should there's way more endgame dragons here. They should just focus on dragons that work when you move past them. That once around thing, drop it and just replace it with something that do something when you move past it. Balance out the game that way, because that's engine building. That's why we love Wingspan. That's why I would give this a try. It's because it reminds me of Wingspan, which is such an amazing game, and you just fail on so many levels to replicate that. On its own, it's okay-ish. Like, if it wasn't for the comparison to Wingspan, I would play this more probably, because it's a fine game and some of my mates seem to enjoy it, so fine, we can play it and it's dragons, that's nice. But because of that Wingspan, I would always say, sure, we could play Wyrmspan, but we could also play Wingspan. Because in the end, it's fine spending 2 turns, as I said, playing down first a cave and then a dragon. That's fine. It's interesting enough, you need to dig out room for these dragons to live in it, and the caves gives you something that has possibility for some combos right there. So that's a very enticing thing. Why does it cost X to excavate? Like, seriously, you have Wingspan, which is an amazing game that has thematic tie-ins that just work. And what have you replaced it with? Something where you use X to dig. Come on. If you wanted to have something where your workers need to eat when they're doing things, then have us pay for resources for them. Also, no dragons. There isn't a lay X action. You need to be all the way out here to start laying X on the board. Otherwise, these 2 places for X. Otherwise, you're completely relying on that once a turn, or a cave like this one that lays an egg. And generally with the caves, they should be more focused on giving you resources or eggs. This one is like, pay 2 dragons, then gain a cave from the display and immediately play it for free. Okay, great, that's good. When am I going to have 2 dragon cards on hand that I want to get rid of? Because in this example, I got a crazy amount of dragon cards. That's kind of insane to have 4 dragon cards on hand at the same time. You are not going to get that, because again, the action, you need to put down a cave and 2 dragons before you get to the part where you get an extra dragon. So you get 2 dragons from doing that one. 2 dragons! And the same with resources. You need to put down a cave and 2 dragons before you start getting those. And then you need an extra cave and an extra dragon before you can start laying eggs over here. And doing it more than once around, paying that extra egg or 2 extra eggs for doing it a 3rd time, that's fucking idiotic. Why have they done this? You know, I started this one off thinking I was going to give it a 6. But the comparison to Wingspan is dragging way down. Let's talk about the components. So, I mean, these cardboard chits here are fine. These eggs are also perfectly fine. Feels like the Wingspan ones. They are dotted eggs, which I think is an upgrade for Wingspan. I don't see why you would get it. I think they are ugly compared to just one color from the Wingspan, to be honest. This little shield token is a nice looking token. The meeple guy you're working around is a nice little wooden token. And well, the squares are square wooden tokens, and all the boards are nice. These as well, thick. They fold out completely. There and flopping on them. Cards are good quality. The artwork is a little bit more special, but I do like the artwork. I think it ties you into the world. Like, it tries to tie you into this world of these dragons with this artwork. This is how they look. Fantastic. It goes all the way through the caves, the dragons, it seems like it made matches. So that's fantastic. Points for that right there. Thematically, you lose me completely. The coin part sort of makes sense for the explore and excavate. You're paying people to do this. Okay, and then the eggs come in. Is that because they need protein to do it? Huh? And the entice action. Okay, but then don't have the entice action cost a silver coin. Then don't have that. Like already there, that would be way better. Okay, explore and excavate costs manpower, and manpower costs money and sometimes food as well, depending on how much work they need to do. So fine, you're digging deeper, so they need to eat. Okay, now we're starting to getting something that makes sense. Entice also costs a silver coin. Why? You need a dragon man to hold up a piece of meat and like, hey, come here, dragon. Ah, I'm gonna get eaten now. That's just because all the actions needed to cost the same. Because otherwise you could have endless amount of actions. You know a game that has endless amount of actions on a technical point? Everdell. You can just continue to play cards as much as you want in Everdell. Completely. You just do that shit. And you want Everdell? It's a great game. It's a really good game. On a technical point, as long as you have the resources for it, you can continue to play cards in Everdell. And you know what? If it was not costing a silver coin to play dragons, then I would forgive everything. The lack of getting the cards and the resources, because it makes sense. You need to it takes some time to get the correct resources and to get cards and stuff, but then you can entice the dragons as much as you want almost. Then all of a sudden we're in like, okay, it's a tight economy, but it makes sense. It ties in together. It works. The Dragon Guild, if there's just a little bit of fucking explanation to it, what is it? Is it a group of humans that have decided that when you're a cool man with a high level in here, you get stuff? Yeah. I don't get what it is. It's just a pointless thing to give you bonus actions. Remove this board. Don't have it cost silver coins to play a dragon. I think you have a way better game already right there. Like, seriously. Because yes, it's tight and it's going to be difficult to go through. But you can do it, and there's an opening in the way. And again, let's compare it to Everdell here. It doesn't cost an action, so to speak, to play a card in Everdell. You don't have to put out a worker to play a card. You just play a card. As long as you have the resources for it. And the difficult part is getting all the resources. And that's where you're trying to create combos, of course, with the cards you're playing down, so you can play more and more cards. But in the end, you can play as many cards as you want to in Everdell on a technical point. If they did the same here, you can play as many dragon cards as you want. It's everything else that costs actions and coins and all of this, making it a little bit difficult to achieve it. You have a better game right there. But no, it needs to cost the same. But it's not balanced, because not all dragons give a coin. Some of them cost coins. That's not balance. That's unfairness in the luck of the draw. And all of a sudden you go from creating something that should be a deeper game and a more difficult game than Wingspan to something that's a worse game than Wingspan. Every time I'm playing this kind of game, every time I sit down to play it and look at the rules, even now doing this, I'm thinking, why is it not Wingspan that's on my table right now? It looks nice, this one, don't get me wrong. Why is it not Wingspan? So yeah, we touched a little bit about the theme and the components, and I think I've talked enough about the gameplay. Let's get into Does It Lie to You? And I think I need the box for that. So here's the box, and it says the 1 to 5 players, 14 and up, 90 minutes game time. So 90 minutes, throw that out the window, just the same with Wingspan. It takes a while, maybe 2-3 hours you can sit down to it. This is a long game, both Wyrmspan and Wingspan are long games. 14 and up, okay sure, I get it. Yeah, about the teenage age, that's when you get onto this one. I don't know why I always do the age. I say that every single video. Why am I doing the age? I don't know anything. I'm 24, I don't know what a 14-year-old is like. When I was 14, I was just discovering that I had something between my legs that felt nice to touch. I could have not played this at 14. 1 to 5 players, as I always say, I don't play solo, but if it is anything more similar to Wingspan, then it works perfectly fine at 2 to 5 players. It does. That's one thing where I can compare it. It's like it's the same feeling 2 to 5 players. Just be aware that at 2 to 5 players, the cards over here are going to shift quite a lot more, but it will enable you to maybe have a bit more luck in the draw. So does it let you? Yeah. Final score is, I said I was going into this one, I was thinking I was going to give it a 6. I'm going to change that to 5, and on Wednesday I'm going to upload again a tabletop comparison between this and Wingspan. I think I'm going to say that I give it a 6 or a 7. Ignore that, I'm giving it a 5 right here, because it's so middle to pack. There's so many things that I think it does wrong, but there's also so many things that I think it does right. And I'm so intrigued by this dragon theme and this amazing artwork. It sort of lures me in, but as soon as I get in, there's things that pile on top that's just, why? It doesn't make any sense. But that's without comparing it to Wingspan. If I compare Wyrmspan to Wingspan, it's a 3 at best, maybe a 2. It's so terrible compared to Wingspan. If this was the original, I would like, yeah, okay, 5, maybe 6. Maybe I would have gone and given it a 6, but 5, and then I wouldn't have minded much for Stonemaier. But because this is the sequel to Wingspan, I'm constantly sitting here like, why am I playing Wingspan? Wingspan is a 10 out of 10 for me. It's amazing. It's thematic. It's made with love. It's made with interest. It's an amazing game, and then you give me this pile of crap. Not quite a pile of crap, but compared to it, it's a pile of crap. So yeah, this is not staying in my collection. I am going to have a conversation with my wife about what we do exactly, because she was the one that wanted me to buy it. But I'm telling you, this is not staying in my collection. This is one of the ones I'm just gonna tell her, no. We can play Wingspan. The dragon theme is not enough to cover for this. So yeah, thank you for watching. This was a negative review. I don't do many of those in my full-on reviews. I try to be positive. But sometimes the truth needs to be said. Wyrmspan is a terrible sequel to Wingspan. Yeah, it's like the prequel trilogy coming after Star Wars. Like, yeah, this is some enjoyable moments in it, sure. But it's terrible compared to the original trilogy. So I wonder if Wingspan is going to be like a sequel trilogy. Even worse. Oh man, I'm going to get hate for saying that. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!